Welcome back to Journey of the Soul Part 2. If you didn't see the first one, follow me on YouTube under Galactic Shaman Ellen Red. In the last episode, I gave you a little background on my very early childhood and how I began to have psychic abilities from the time that I was 2 years old that I can remember, and a little bit of the background of my childhood. So this time we'll step forward a little bit into some of the later childhood years. And I just want to say that I was, after, of course, throughout my years, I was neglected, abused, essayed, etc., by many, and I suffered greatly. And as I was becoming a teenager, I began to have, well, I always had prophetic dreams. Even from the time that I was 4 or 5, I was forewarned about my life journey, about being essayed, and I understood that the guides were kind of showing me what I was going to be experiencing so that I could be comforted through it. By the time that I was a teenager, I was very psychically attacked by entities. I dealt with shadow people. I battled with them. I battled with demonic entities. I experienced a lot of sleep paralysis. And later, I was shown by my guides that this was a training that they were putting me through so that I could develop my psychic abilities in order to become a healer later. But at the time, I didn't understand that. So I was suffering tremendously, both from the physical world and all the things that I was being tortured with in my human life, and also from the psychic world, where I learned later again that these entities and beings that were very much attacking me were trying to prevent me from the role that I stand in now. And they even caused me to become suicidal. I tried to off myself when I was 14. I spent a lot of years trying to do that and suffered tremendously with extraordinary depressive disorders and other types of spiritual struggles, because I didn't have anybody to help me understand what I was going through or how to deal with it. I was left alone most of the time, fighting off and fending off really bad people in my physical life, as well as things spiritually that nobody in my family understood or knew how to help with anyway. But as a teenager, I was extremely psychic, and I knew that I was. I just didn't want to come out and say that I was, because I was afraid I would be put in a mental hospital, because my mom was. And I would be able to tell people dreams. I saw my nephew before he was born. I knew that I was being asked to help raise him, which I did. I saw my grandmother pass over in the dream world first. I woke up, found out she had passed. I had so many prophetic dreams constantly. I could tell you who was on the phone if somebody called you while I was at your house. And I knew that I was highly psychic. So I was being put through some severe training, but I still didn't know how to work through those gifts, mostly because I had so much trauma also. I later learned that I was an MK Ultra victim, and I had a family member who trafficked me. Actually, it was two. It was her and her husband, and they were both trafficking me and doing things to me that they didn't know. Each of them didn't know that the other was doing. So I was being exposed to extreme abuse and other types of things that was just pure torture, which is why I didn't want to stay in my body. I had seen so much darkness by the time I was 14 that I was ready to leave Earth. But when I attempted to unalive myself, it didn't work. And I was put into a care facility. They handcuffed me and put me in a I don't know what you call it, a detention center for a little while. Really didn't embrace the psychic abilities at that time, because I had too chaotic of a life to really realize what it was or why it was there. I was too busy trying to heal from my physical life. And so by age 14, after all that trauma, I decided that I wanted to help myself. I thought that something was wrong with me because I knew that I was different, and I knew that something was off with me, my life, and why I was being exposed to so many things, both physically and spiritually. So I put myself in therapy, and I studied psychology for about 15 years. I went to the therapist's office every week for almost 15 years and studied psychology intently. I studied serial killers, I studied psychology, I studied the mind, I studied what makes people the way they are, and I continued to go through therapy, continuing to try to heal some of these ancestral wounds, ancestral karma, these shadow people, the things that I was just plagued with in my life. And I spent a very long time working diligently to try to heal. I ended up having a baby very, very early as a 18, 19-year-old, and that changed my life, because up until that point, I was very much being trafficked and had been stripped really of my voice from all of the abuse and the trauma and the MK Ultra and things like that. So I had a baby, and that kind of helped me to begin to fight for her. It gave me an excuse to fight for me. So I always saw her as an angelic being who came in to kind of help change the timeline of the trajectory that my life was on. And I'll tell you more about that later, because many things were revealed about her later on, and about our story together and why we chose each other to be on earth with. But up until this point, I was still repressing a lot of my psychic abilities, even though they were there. My dreams were so much my guides throughout my life that I learned how to interpret dreams really early on as a child, and they helped to guide me throughout my journey in so many ways that I now teach on dream interpretation. I work with clients who are experiencing things that they don't understand, and I've been able to really, really, really make sense of the spirit world, and I'll continue to share more of my story as we go. If you guys want to continue hearing my videos, make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, follow me on YouTube, leave a comment so that others can see this video, because as you guys know, the algorithms aren't favorable to those of us in the light very often. So your help is greatly appreciated, and I will follow up with part 3.